thank you all for being here today to talk about our newest venture. For years, you have heard that the way cities have done their work has gone unchanged. And then for a lot of that time, including up until when I was elected, I was told that there were no new ways to pick up trash, no new ways to pave roads, no new ways to look at deteriorating infrastructure. And we very actively sought to challenge that paradigm. And we did by using data. And we have seen that our city and other cities across the United States have entered a new era of vitality in utilizing data and systems to get better governance structures. Using innovative policies and practices to address historic challenges, and in the process, forging new roads and technology planning and management. The City of Syracuse is proud to be a leader in this type of innovation, and I have talked to all of you many times before about the different areas that we have used data and technology to embark on a new way to deliver services. Of course, piloting sensors for early warning systems for water main breaks, developing new ways for citizens to post complaints and issues, report service requests, implementing a dig once policy, many different ways that we have looked to use data and technology to improve services. We established ourselves as a leader, but of course we were not alone in being able to do this. We have partnered with some of the best and brightest organizations around the country from almost the very start of my administration, from the IBM Smarter Cities to Bloomberg Philanthropies to the Aspen Institute and the University of Chicago, to name a few. And just in the beginning of this week, I spoke alongside the Mayor of Flint, Michigan, Karen Weaver, at City Lab to talk about the importance of water infrastructure and how innovation and technology can make repair and maintenance better for all cities across the United States. Today, I'm here to announce formally that we have been asked to join the ranks of yet another prestigious program. This time, as you can see by the bright orange banner behind me, did we decide it would be orange, or is it orange all the time?
It is orange.
So they knew we were coming. Is the What Works City. It's a coalition that was launched in April 2015 by the Bloomberg Philanthropies. Syracuse is among 16 cities whose selection was announced this week. That brings a total of participating cities up to 55, and ultimately there will be 100 cities participating in this initiative. We applied to join this program last year and work with them to determine whether we were applicable and appropriate and the proper challenges to tackle. The first areas that we are going to tackle are going to be infrastructure and housing, and we are going to find better ways to compile and utilize data internally, and then our goal is to make data open, to use the so-called open source data model. Some of you heard me talk about that in our civic hackathon that we announced 2 weeks ago, I believe. We provided open source data to people to help us try to fix our infrastructure in general and our roads in particular using the data that's available. It is our goal to make this data, to compile it, to utilize it, and then make it available to anybody who would like to use it, with, of course, the end result being better policies and better governance for the people of the City of Syracuse. I am thrilled that we were asked to join this and we're being successful, both because of the opportunity that it provides for us to provide better service for the people of the City of Syracuse, and also because it's a recognition of the incredible hard work that has been done by this administration, and particularly the innovation team that I am joined by here today. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions that anyone has.
Is there some sort of grant that comes with it?
Well, I can always tell what the first question's always going to be. You guys are good residents and proponents of the City of Syracuse. I think the message has gotten to you. This does not cost the city any money. Staff will be dedicated to follow the process, and there will be technical assistance made available by the What Works Cities Coalition.
So specifically, what are you going to be looking at? What data?
Housing data and infrastructure data, so that we can make data more open and then make it people be able to utilize that. So in many ways, the use of data and data analytics kind of flips the traditional question on its head, because we traditionally think about, well, what are you going to use this tool for? Instead, with data, you provide it, and then people can say, this is the problem that I have, or this is what I'm thinking about. How can I utilize all of this to determine what problem it can solve? So often with data and technology, you make sure that your data is clean and usable first and foremost, and then the solutions or the problems that it can be utilized to solve make themselves available. So for example, in other cities, they've looked at it using data and technology to look at littering, to look at juvenile violence, to look at a whole host of kind of the chronic problems that impact cities and quality of life. And so we're going to look at it specifically in two parts, infrastructure and housing, to look at housing quality, substandard housing, code enforcement issues, with the idea being that we can then use this data to make sure that we have a better, sounder, more housing stock for the people of our community to live in.
I think you mentioned this already. How much, has the city's previous partnerships and work with the innovation team, et cetera, how much did that, if at all, factor into the city's selection for this program, as far as the previous efforts to become more efficient?
I think it did a lot. I, of course, can't speak for the board of What Works Cities, but when I was asked to speak in front of the What Works Cities panel and one of their meetings this year in June, and when I did, and we talked about what we had already done with infrastructure and using data, and I showed them some of our fantastic video of roads blowing up and sensors. They all thought that it was interesting and rewarding, and they have talked to lots of people about that. But I have found that wherever I'm asked to speak about infrastructure in general, water infrastructure in particular, when I talk about our problems and what we have done, people really are impressed by the work that has gone on into it and the thinking. So much so that whether I'm speaking at a What Works City conference or in front of City Lab, I'll be speaking at the American Water Association in December about this, and I've been asked to speak to the New Jersey Association for Clean Water in the next 2 weeks, all based upon the work that has been done. So, Scott, that's a long way of saying this work speaks for itself, and it has been able to be done because of the great, hard, committed work of the innovation team. And I just have the privilege of being able to sort of show off their work. Now, I will tell you that when the innovation team first came and started meeting with me and talking about the importance of open source data, I was skeptical. Some may even choose a much harsher word, but I will say I was skeptical about the viability of that or whether we should make that a priority. But because of the hard work that they've done, they have shown me that open source data can be used to solve problems that you didn't even think could be solved. And in the next couple of months, you're going to be hearing us unveil solutions that open source data has allowed us to execute, because we've been able to do that. And we think moving forward, you're going to see even more. And again, as evidenced by our announcement about the civic hackathon with road quality.
How long will it take to compile all this data? And then once we get it, this program, it seems it really is a gathering of data. We still need funding to actually address it, right?
Well, sure, it depends on what the solution is. So different, depending on what the data is and where it comes from, it will take different periods of time. So for example, we have a lot of our water data is already in a system that we can manipulate and use. But there are still different parts of some of that water data that is not put in the right systems, and we still need to clean that up. So depending on what we're using, we may have to do more work than others. And that's part of why we decided it was an important investment to hire a chief data officer who is spending almost all of his time thinking about these kind of things and how can we use this and how can we make it available in a way that not just government employees can work on, but people who spend time hacking and like to think about these things? Or can we form a partnership with Syracuse University so they can utilize some of this data? Or can we just make it available so that somebody somewhere who thinks about these kind of solutions can can access our data and then share with us what they've what they have found.
Is this, you collect the data you already have, but going forward, does this create a methodology for you to continue to collect it as you go on in the future?
I think so, Ellen. I will tell you that, you know, you get really into the weeds pretty quickly on software systems and data manipulation and big data. But there are part of what we also have been trying to do is develop systems that we can then share with other cities. Well, in order to do that, you have to make sure that your sort of data is, I will say, user-friendly, that every city can do that. And so you start thinking about what are the kind of uniform qualities or characteristics that everyone wants. And also, by the way, there are lots of open source data that's available from, you know, different levels of government that's just out there. So you want to be able to figure out how you can use this back and forth. Or how multiple people and multiple governments and multiple levels to make it where they can access it and use it.
I think this question might be more
Are you-
designed for the I team. If that's
Are you
okay.
doubting that I know all about innovation
No,
and technology?
I would
You would be
never.
very smart to do that,
That's not my
right? Because did you notice once I get past software and hardware, I'm lost, right?
Because I'm already lost.
I'm of course just kidding. Actually, IT, why don't you come up and surround me?
Yeah, you guys are the experts, and you know best if you're.
Why don't you all come up here? Yes, why don't you all come up here?
No pressure.
And then,
She's very nice.
I'll
yes,
wait.
come on up.
But come up close to the mic.
And then
Don't
let's
wait.
start with,
Just so we
did I
can
get
hear.
anything wrong,
I
Sam?
mean, for the I team, that really hasn't been in existence too long, how will this data, and make it in the simplest terms if you don't mind, but how will this benefit you guys and what your overall goal is?
Sure. The innovation team is relatively new, and I think it represents a new way of approaching problem solving. So some of what we do is higher tech, some is pretty low tech. But one thing that we try to bring to the work is how do we use data to make better decisions as a city. So a lot of the problems we face, they're faced by other communities. These are traditional problems. How can we take untraditional, non-traditional approaches to solving those problems? So using data to do that is an important part of our process. So I think people think about government data, it's usually, you know, we keep records. We have records, we're able to look back if we ever need to. This is different. This is a more forward-looking, proactive approach where the data that we collect, how do we organize it in a way that we can make better decisions with it and open it up to the world in a way where we're more transparent, but also creating opportunities for other people who are good at using data to help us find new solutions to old problems.
Can you give us an example, just so I can try to understand this in my mind?
Can I
Like, what
give them an
kind of-
example?
Does that make you know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
so I want to bring Adria here. We have great pictures of Adria in a safety vest on the back of trucks on a valve that open and close that, quote, exercise valves. So that's the low-tech part of it, right? Getting out there and exercising the valves, because when you have a water main break, the closer to the break that you can close off the valves, the less people that are impacted by the water main break. So that's one part of what Adria has done to understand this whole process. But the other part is looking at measuring where are our valves and how many of them have been exercised. How often have they been exercised? How often should you do it? Should you do it once a year? Should you do it once every 6 months? Have we been doing it once every 5 years? And how often can you get those valve exercise machines out there to exercise the valves to prevent this? So go ahead, Adria.
Yeah, so one of the things that we're doing now is there is a GPS unit on the back of this valve exercising machine called the WOX machine, and whenever it operates or it turns to turn a valve, it'll pull the GPS coordinate and send it to a data system so that then we can map and we can see where we've tested these valves. Then we can keep a record of it, and we can ensure that we're deploying resources in the right areas. If we know that certain water mains might be more susceptible to a break, we can make sure that we're testing the valves there and just make sure that we're really executing at our fullest capacity.
So does that do it, Alexa? I try to give you the
Well,
gamut of
yeah.
low tech to high tech, and then just throw in a couple. We shoot it to the clouds, because that's another thing. You just have to say there's certain buzzwords: open source, cloud, high tech, innovation. Gotcha, right? You're ready to be mayor, and you get those terms. You're ready to be mayor.
Watch out.
You're welcome.
I guess at the end of the day, my question is, and people people are gonna be hearing all these different terms, and they're gonna be saying, well, how does this affect me? You know, and you know, we're getting, unfortunately, into the colder months. We start seeing some of these water main breaks, but how will it affect the residents? What's in it for them?
Well, look, what's in it for them, let me give the very specific. So if you are living in Eastwood and there's a water main break on James Street, the question is that water main break going to impact all of Eastwood, or is it going to impact one block? If we have exercised the valves appropriately, and we know when that water main breaks, then we can shut the valves that are closest to that water main break, and then the impacted area will only be a block. And then that will allow water to be restored to only a block as quickly as possible. If we didn't have this data about exercising valves, or we didn't keep track of it, or we didn't have a GPS system on there, then we wouldn't know when that water main breaks, and we wouldn't know where the valves were, where they had been exercised, how big or wide can we isolate that. The same thing that goes for if we have a water main leak and we have sensors. That sensor will automatically, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every day, sends data to us so that we can read the leaks. And then we can say, you know what, we're going to fix that leak on a Monday afternoon in May, as opposed to, oh my gosh, this water main exploded because we didn't know it had a big catastrophic leak in it, and it exploded on a February on Saturday when Syracuse University was beating Duke basketball, and that impacts all of downtown. Or, let me give you another, that one I just, pulled, that actually did happen. Let me give you another real world example. There was a water main break in the Armory Square area. And because of our ability to utilize data and figure out the water main break and work with it, the Empire Brew Pub was able to save the beer that they had made. That's right. That's a very important thing in Syracuse. Had they not been able to do that, they would have had lots of inventory that they would have had to waste, because when they make their own beer, it's got to cool for a certain period of time. We were able to enable them to do it. You heard me talk a couple of months ago at Cafe Kubal about what happens when water mains break to the Cafe Kubal business. All of this stuff helps make sure that we can predictably and efficiently deliver water to the residents and the business owners in the city of Syracuse. And I think everybody realizes that that is incredibly important, but if they didn't, I can tell you that as I sat on the panel with the mayor of Flint, Michigan, Mayor Weaver said, use us as an example. Look at what's happening in Flint. That's not going to happen in Syracuse, because we've made it a priority to make it not happen in Syracuse, and we have all of these people, the best and the brightest, working on new and different solutions, and that has been recognized by the What Works Cities Coalition asking us to join. Anybody else? I can continue to talk about infrastructure if you'd like. Ellen, would you like me to talk some more about it? No. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. I'm always here if you want to talk about some more about it. Thank you all. Thank you, Innovation Team.